video has started.
I did it again.
Yes, you did.
Every fucking time. Ay, ay, ay. All right. So, hello and welcome to Two Pagans and a podcast. I am your host, Beard, and with me, as always, is Fro, Double G.
What's up, everybody?
How
I got a new hat.
he did get a new hat from his
Surtur hat.
lovely.
It's from a video game, but I know y'all know what Surtur is.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Surtur main incoming.
So let's put a spot right there.
Right. Okay. But before we go into any other banter, we wanted to start off things slightly different. Fro, would you like to kick us off for our first attempt of doing this?
Yeah. So we figured, as all of us being heathens, it'd probably be a good idea to maybe talk on the Havamal. Plus, once we talk enough about the Havamal, we'll be able to talk about the Havamal as an actual whole subject, right? So we are going to do what we are going to call start off with a stanza, where we start off with a stanza. I thought that was pretty self-explanatory, so I don't know why I decided to explain it. But we have between us 4 different variations, or translations, I should say, of the Havamal. He has Hollander, and I have Bray, Thorpe, and Bellows. Now, I'm reading from the Havamal, or the Study Havamal. That also includes the Old Norse translation. Yes, I know it's from Hungen and Moonen Publishing. Yes, I know that they're focused as fuck. But this was a gift given to me, and the person who bought this for me didn't know that. I simply said Havamal. This is the Havamal I got. It's probably a failure on my end not to let them know. But, so before anyone attacks me in the comments, yes, I know I got it from the improper company. I know. You don't have to tell me. And I will use this as an opportunity to let anyone who does not know, Hungen and Moonen Publishing are a actual focused, or at least they promote a lot of focused style books. So there we go. So I'll use this opportunity at the very least. But in the meantime, I do have it, and we have the translations. So if Beard would like, I will start off with. I mean, I could try to be real funny and do it in Old Norse, but I'm honestly.
Oh,
It won't turn out well. I'll look pretty sad. Like, we do that on my normal podcast, my gaming podcast, because none of us speak foreign languages except for Spanish shit. Here, I don't think it'll work too well. Too many people get it. But anyways, so we'll start off with Havamal Stanza 1, the Bray translation. At every doorway, ere one enters, one should spy around, one should pry around. For uncertain is the witting that there'll be no foeman sitting within before one on the floor. Next, we have the Thorpe translation. All doorways, before going forward, should be looked to. For difficult it is to know where foes may sit within a dwelling. And the third one I have is the Bellows. Within the gates, ere a man shall go, full warily let him watch, full long let him look about. For little he knows where a foe may lurk, and sits in the seats within. So very. I'll let you do your final one here.
Yeah, because I mean, those compared to what Hollander has. Oh my goodness.
I mean, them compared to the 3 that I said, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, even the 3 compared to themselves. So, hitting us from Hollander. Have thy eyes about thee, when thou enterest. Be wary alway. Be watchful alway. For one never knoweth when need will be to meet hidden foe in the hall. I mean, Hollander seems drastically shorter compared to the other 3.
I mean, it may have just been the cadence I was taking too, because Thorpe did it pretty short. The overall theme of all of them are the same, right? Basically just inspect your surrounding when in a new place, because you don't know if there's a hidden enemy.
Yeah, I would agree that they all kind of translate that way. Yeah.
Right. But they definitely can kind of go about it in different ways and kind of present themselves um a little differently, you know.
Right. Because like when the thing that stuck to me with, I don't remember which one specifically, but two of them kind of sounded the same. Where it was like, when you enter the gate or when you enter the doorway, always be watchful, always be mindful. Whereas Hollanders it's just, it doesn't specify that you're walking in somewhere. It's just, you always need to be entering anywhere. Always
Yep.
be
It's
paying
actually
attention.
Bray and Thorpe both say doorway, and Bellows says gate. So it's all three of them imply like some sort of threshold that you're crossing. Right.
Right. I mean, I guess you could imply that with Hollanders too, because it's when thou enterest. But
I will say that
I mean,
Hollanders seem to be a little more flowery. Definitely probably is
yeah,
more from the 1800s, it sounds like. Or at least trying to
yeah,
appeal
yeah.
to that style of writing.
I mean, yeah. From my understanding, is that this is translated into kind of more of that Old English Shakespearean type kind of sound and translation of the words, which is fine. It sometimes makes it hard to read sometimes, but the nice part about the translated Poetic Edda by Lee Hollander is all the pages have little, I don't know if my camera will pick it up. There it goes. Has little snippets down here of like, hey, we know that this sentence is kind of hard to understand. Let us, explain it a little bit better. Or they'll cite a reference to like, hey, you need to go read this.
Oh, I know. I don't want to talk this book up too much because I don't want people buying it, right? But I will say one nice thing is like the second page is just notes. Like it's
Oh,
stanza
that
one,
is nice.
literally notes page. So if a non-focused company makes this book and publishes it, please do that same thing. Like it is rather nice. And I am looking to buy an actual copy because I want to have a shelf one and I want to have my study one, right? Like I want a nice one to keep on the shelf, but
Yeah,
oh my.
eventually when I have, we own an actual house and I can have an actual library.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say library. It's rather small right now. So yeah, there's stanza one of the Havamal from the four different translations that we have. Let us know if you guys like this. I know a lot of people kind of cover the Havamal already. Um, it's kind of, I was like, well, we got between us, we got the four translations. We can hit that up. Most people usually stick to one. I do know, like, Wolf the Red will do multiples of each of them, along with his cowboy one, which is really cool. Or the Jackson Crawford's cowboy Havamal. Um, and, you know, I those do work for videos and all that, but I just figured, if we were, let's touch on one, like I said, each episode as we go. Especially since, podcasts are kind of the, we're all about talking anyways. Speaking of talking, weren't we talking about something in particular today?
Yes, I believe the topic that we settled on last minute, even you could say, um, is Ragnarok.
Twilight
I
of
tried
the
to make that sound epic.
Gods.
Oh, I messed that up,
Ragnarok.
didn't I?
Yeah, so we're touching on Ragnarok and Lokeans. Lokeans, yes. This is the evil episode.
I don't like that. I don't like that term.
I know, that's why I said it. Why don't you tell us why you don't
Yeah.
like it? We'll start right there.
We'll start
Why you
with
don't?
the
We'll start
whole
right
evil
there. Yeah,
concept.
because honestly, let's.
So
Well, when we say we're talking about Ragnarok, all you motherfuckers know what Ragnarok is, right? Y'all, we don't got to explain Ragnarok. Y'all know the story of Ragnarok.
yeah,
We're
if
going
you
to talk
don't
about
know
on
what
our
this,
thoughts on Ragnarok. So that can come afterwards, right? So let's just lead right in with Lokeans, those evil devil worshippers.
so
Call me. I'm kidding, by
it,
the way. Let us continue.
yeah. In I mean, for anyone who is listening first time, maybe not familiar with Ragnarok, this would be a good time to pause this episode, go brush up on Ragnarok and what a Lokian is, and then come back. So our thoughts make sense.
Well, I mean, we can
So-
say what a Lokean is real quick and easy. A Lokean is just someone who worships Loki, but the broad term will also be applied to any of his children, such as Fenrir, Jormungandr, or Hel.
And sometimes Nidhogger gets
Yeah, he does get thrown in
Nidhogger.
there.
So to touch on the evil thing, and I gotta make sure I'm not talking too loud. I have family sleeping right now. Because I just realized I'm spiking really bad. But so the concept of good and evil isn't really a thing, so to speak. I mean, depending on what translation you're reading, they will chalk things into being good and evil. A lot of that comes with those Christian influenced translations and things like that, chalking up the whole good versus evil concept. Now, when you read, and again, this is my understanding of a lot of the stories, especially the stories that directly tie into or relate to the events of Ragnarok and why Loki does what he does and everything happens in Ragnarok, is, because he's, the god of mischief. Oh, he's constantly making fun of people and doing things like that. But there are several tales and stories, and I'm using this as an example of the good and evil, is there's the one, I think it's specific, called the flighting of Loki, where they're having a big feast and Loki is going to each of the gods and he is pointing out a flaw about each one of them.
Oh, that's the
And
locust
there
center.
are- Yes. So like he's pointing out like a flaw about each god, but they're all taking it that, he's just being mischievous, he's being in jest. But some of the gods he goes to actually get upset every time he makes a comment about them. And then another god steps in and, oh, Loki, you're being, jerk, is the general concept. But in that same concept, it's like all these different things continue to pile up for Loki. So it's like he goes out and does these things. Like he cuts off, is it
Sif's
Sif's hair?
Yeah, Sif.
Yeah. He cuts
Sif,
off
Thor's
Sif's
wife,
hair, and then
the one who's known to have the long, beautiful golden hair.
yeah. So then he goes, and Loki's the reason why Thor ends up with Mjolnir. Sif ends up with the golden hair. Why we have Odin's spear, whose name I can't think of off the top of my head.
Gungnir.
Or
yeah. Gungnir.
The whole reason Odin has his horse is because of Loki. So
yeah, it's one thing that's real funny for a god of mischief. He actually is, in a roundabout way, the reason many of the mythical items are exist in our mythos, right?
Exactly. But when you look at all these different, little tidbits and things that he does.
Beard, god damn it. You better not be sharpening your fucking pencil during recording. I see your hands twiddling.
It makes no noise.
Yeah, you pull up that audacity, motherfucker.
No, I've tested it 3 times. It doesn't make any noise.
All right.
I'm boring a hole through this wood piece.
I'll take it from you. I know certain things just don't show up on recording. Trust.
Like right now, this whole time I've been doing it, my line was blank right there while you were talking. Just so you know.
No.
And if it does make a noise, I mean, the
I'm
most thing that's going to happen is
flashbacks
that
to episode 1 where we're trying to talk and you're fucking whittling. It's like, dude. Every knife blade.
Worst case, I'm gonna screw this up, and once I get my file bored through this wood piece and it pops out the other end, I'm gonna stab myself, which will be funny. But
I mean, get that on video.
I mean, we'll get it on video. It'll be great. So, getting back to the point, though. So the whole concept, and especially like this pinpointing as Loki as a villain of the Norse mythos, really isn't. When you really deep down and look at the stories, if you take it from the perspective of the gods claiming that he's mischievous and that he's just a jerk and all of that, then yes, he's being a villain. But a lot of the times, the reason he's being that way is because of how the gods treat him. A lot of them tell him off because he is the god of mischief. They don't take him seriously because he's labeled as the god of mischief. When, Fenrir comes about and, Hel comes about and all this other thing, Odin basically outcasts Hel, but makes her also ruler of the dead and gives her more power than anybody else on the planet, which I think is weird. But then
Arguably, and I know it's hard to, what is the power of a god, but
right,
it would seem to be probably one of the most powerful, right? Because in the story where, is it Frigg? Yeah, Frigg goes to ask for Balder to come back. Like, Hel's like,
yeah,
if you meet my condition. And like that's it, like it unmoved by another god, right?
Right.
Now again, it's kind of a weird area because we're talking about the power or the strengths of a god, right? So it's like, what do we really have to compare that with? Like, because we don't really necessarily have anything like Frigg's around like this area, which again, I think even putting any sort of value on it's kind of odd, but we can use it as an example of like unmoving at behest of another god, still unmoving.
Right. So like,
or I guess you could always look at it too that like she's able to hold him down there, but that I just don't like the wording with that. Keep him down there, but it sounds too like trapping. Also, I keep saying down there. There's some, by the way, there's how latent Christianity works. I keep saying down there because whenever we speak of hell or Helheim, right? I just assume down. Obviously I'm not fusing the two, but because we say hell and goes down there, when I speak of Helheim, I was like, yeah, down, but no, not down. It's actually quite the opposite. No story involving going down to Helheim.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no like specific direction up or down to get to the different realms. It's kind of like the realms are all
definitely the heavens for Asgard, right? Because the rainbow. But even then, I guess I might be reading into that myself. They might have been seeing it like the other end of the rainbow is touching down in another realm. You're not necessarily going up to it, just up and over. So I mean, who knows? That's my interpretation. I'll say that. That's the only one that may have a direction.
And this may be, we should probably make note of this sooner than later. This is probably an episode to go back to and look at the different interpretations of where the realms are in accordance to each other.
I mean, make the channel right now. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when we're like right, it doesn't have to be right the second right now, but so we don't forget. Because I'm a stoner and you're forgetful. I don't know what your excuse is. I have a pretty decent one, but
I have children.
I got that too. I'm doubling down on my excuses. Come at me, boy. What's up?
Anyway, so when it comes to evil, like there's no real like no one god is perfect and no one god in the mythos is particularly bad or evil. Like for everything mischievous Loki does, there is a positive outcome because of it. Or something that he does that is mischievous, he uses to help another god.
I mean, his mischievousness saved Freya from being
wed to a giant. Yeah.
Yeah, wed to a Jotun. Yeah. So I mean,
which is where we get the fun image of Thor in a dress. Which I think is great.
No. Well, yes, actually, but no, that didn't involve. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of did involve Freya. But it was more like, hey, Freya, can we offer you? And she's like, get fucked. No. Because I was referring to the wall with Swadalfari and oh my god, I don't remember the name of the fucking giant who built the wall. Not Utgard Loki. Anyways, the giant who offered to build the wall around Asgard, but then Loki tricked him. But the whole thing is like, if he was able to get it done in time, he was going to be awarded. I want to say it was Freya.
That's right.
But was it also the soul too? I think it was Freya though.
It was Freya.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the fun things in Assassin's Creed Valhalla when you do. There's the wise woman, the seeress, if you gather her herbs, you do, which I know it's, their whole progenitor race thing, aliens, blah, 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 in Assassin's Creed, but
Wait,
you
what?
get to
Oh, no,
do,
never mind. Never mind. It's a game. It's a game. Hold up.
yeah, it's a game. So, yeah, basically, like, your character is a direct descendant of Odin through bloodline or whatever. Um, so like when you eat these herbs, when you do the quest for her, you then get to do this flashback thing where you get to play as um Odin or someone else during the events that led up to the fall of Valhalla and Ragnarok, and in their mythos within the game. And
Interesting for a game.
one of the quests you do is you have to defeat the giant because he completes the defenses for Asgard, and you don't want him to marry Freya. So you have to kill him. So then you actually have to do it. And I thought that was a fun little side quip.
Yeah, I find that all interesting. Like I really do, and I have no problems with our stories being in lore and all that, even if they're changed and shit like that, because artistic representation happens. Like whatever.
Right.
As long as people aren't louting or trying to lord over how that's the actual lore and mythology nowadays, right? That's when it gets bothersome.
I found, like, with Odyssey and Valhalla, I mean, though they didn't do things clearly spot on because they had to make it fit within their whole, the race that came before humans or ended up creating humans was what we consider now the gods and blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot more to it. But I always felt that they did things tastefully. Like the Odyssey, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like you actually have to go down, and like one of the side quests is you get to go down to the labyrinth, and the way you find your way through the maze is there's the golden thread, and the Minotaur is an experiment that went wrong. So I mean, there's things that are done tastefully, but my daughter is staring at me, so hang on. What do you need, Bo?
Gonna give me something. I don't know.
Yes, that's fine. Okay. Sorry. So back on topic though, Fro. Before I get us too side tangent with video games and media influences. So would we then summarize this point that evil, or at least the concept of good and evil, isn't necessarily a thing?
I mean, it's definitely a thing, right? But it's a thing in a different sense, right? Because if you look at it from a lot of the Christian concepts, they wholeheartedly base good and evil on God, right? Whereas I don't know historically, obviously, because they didn't write it down and we can't really go back and ask them, where the heathens of old would have based theirs, but a lot of modern pagans will usually base their concepts of good or evil on human suffering and what causes and doesn't cause human suffering, and what benefits or lessens human suffering, or benefits humans in general or lessens human suffering. So we don't really have that, like you said. Some do, and even if the pagan out there that do like root their morality in a god, there's nothing really problemsome with it, right?
Right.
It's kind of, but when they start to try to be like an authority on how our morality should be, it gets a little more troublesome then. Oh yeah, we just don't have that whole concept. And also, like, we have no problem with being like, hey, a god can lie. I have no issue. And I know a lot of Christians will be like, oh, what the fuck? Oh, gods lie. They're evil. How are you supposed to trick someone without lying? Loki is the god of trickery, right?
Right.
Odin's the god of wisdom. Sometimes the most wise thing to do for your own safety is lie to somebody. It really is. Not even maliciously, but for your safety in a good way. Lying. That's how you do it. Right?
Unfortunately. I mean, I personally don't believe in lying. I would rather be honest. I don't see the point in it, but
Well, yeah, for your situation, now let's say that you are surrounded by 1,500 pointy hooded type Christians looking to get rid of the non pointy or the non Christians. If they come knocking at your door just to get them to go away, you'd be, no. Love Jesus here. Why don't you go away? You know what I mean? As a for instance, that's kind of more what I mean, right?
I mean, and that's
what I'm getting at is
extreme situation.
Well, yeah. Of course, I needed an extreme example because I don't have a specific one on top of my head, right?
Fair.
And what I'm saying about lying for your safety, usually you kind of have to go to the more extremes in general, right? There's
also true.
Other white lies, right? And again, I'm not even gonna get too much in like the lying aspect because obviously, like, you should try to avoid it as possible. It's just kind of that same concept. Like, you can tell the way how some people look and talk about like a lie, like wholehearted evil, unexcusable, and all that, but it's not, right? And that's kind of like our same concepts to a God. Like,
right.
There is no real fallback. Our theology doesn't fall apart if, oh no, they did a lies, right? Especially when we also don't have like a commandment practice, or a we don't feel like we are 100% compelled to do what this text says us, or else we're going to hell, right? If we get some sort of vibe or spiritual experience or have what we think's a God communicating to do something that is harmful or bad, we see no problem with ignoring that, depending on what it is, or cutting ties with that and just be like, not working with that no more. But granted, these are a little bit more on the extreme examples. Right. But I do think this situation kind of calls for extreme examples, right? Because like, we don't worship evil gods. We don't do it. We don't do it. And a lot of these are just like counters to like, even if they were, or as close as we could get, right? But we don't. That's the thing. Like, the closest you can get to most of us saying an evil god is like I said, Loki. And even then, is trickery really evil? No. Or you could look at some people, they do worship Fenrir. And people be like, you worship the thing that's going to cause the end of the world. But then if you look up, I do believe Wolf the Red on Ocean Keltoy's video about Fenrir talks about like how he approaches his practice with Fenrir. You look at it like that, that's not evil at all, right? Because he'll bring up like, sometimes you will need like the violence of the oppressed. And that's essentially like the UPG he runs with, or like his way he styles it. And I think it all kind of fits, and it's pretty fair.
Right.
And or if you look at like a hell, a lot of Christians will be like, my God, you worship a god of death, like, hey, goddess of death. That's Satan, it's a demon. And it's like, well, no, because a lot of it has to do with the way we view life and death. Because for us, most pagans, death is just the next step, right? You're moving on to the next part of your existence. You're moving on to the next realm, right? And we also have like, a lot of us have like ancestor veneration, right? So like, we are trying to feel connected with our ancestors, but through the caretaker of the dead, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's just the thing. We don't view her. It's not like hell shows up, people die, right? It's almost a bit of the opposite. The way we'd view it as someone has passed, the caretaker, the guide, is there to help them along to the other side. It's not like like I said, it's not like hell showed up, people die. It's just not how we view it.
Right. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, anytime I've kind of touched on it previously, but I mean, I've always looked at it as, oh, well, someone died. well, there's that feeling, and it's usually like right before or right after, like I've said before, when I have that experience. So, um, yeah. So where do we want to?
Well, this episode was pretty heavily, just so everyone knows behind the scenes, this episode is pretty heavily more of our freeform one, as it's really just kind of talking on points on how Lokeans aren't evil, and we don't think Lokeans are evil, and we don't think gods are evil. Well, and
Basically.
Ragnarok, once we move on to that section.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Fenrir, Nidhogg. I mean, we wrote down all the Lokean gods that we really wanted to touch on. So, I mean, I guess we could at this point move on to Ragnarok.
We could. I mean, the other point that I think I'll make is, and I'll use, because you referenced with thread, and I'll use that as the example here. I think so, like the example or like the UPG or the mindset that Wolf the Red in his video, again, please go reference it, and this is my thoughts on how he's presenting his thoughts on it, is that rather than looking at Fenrir for his events in Ragnarok, he's looking at him from a different lens of, here's this dog that comes about, this wolf, this great animal that grows, and for the longest time is actually a friend of the gods. And then because Odin becomes so afraid that he's getting so big, so fast, that Fenrir will be the wolf that kills him in Ragnarok, he then orders him to be chained. At no time before that moment had Fenrir done anything to anybody. He was a friend, he went hunting, I don't know if he necessarily went to battle, but, you know, they were training him, especially Tyr, and there was just these, you know, mentions of just him being a good dog. And then Odin's like, I don't like this. We're going to go have him chained up. So please go chain this dog up. And then he just becomes this, you know, the whole reason he goes after Odin and does what he does during Ragnarok is because, I mean, naturally, if someone chained me up for I don't know how long, I would be kind of upset too.
Right, yeah, I mean, like, you gotta understand, it makes total sense, especially when it's like, they didn't just chain the fucker up, right? Like, first off, they tricked the dude, right?
Right, I mean, they went through this big, long process to do it.
Which I don't know if getting tricked into getting chained up versus just chained up's any better. Hard to say.
I mean, I think it exacerbates the situation. But I mean, that's when you look at the other.
But hold up though. But then they also, and this is one thing a lot of people forget, rammed a sword through his jaw so he can't close his mouth.
Yeah,
like
there's that.
I'm not gonna lie, in the stories, when that happens, when I in the mythos wise go, okay, Asgardians are overreacting a little bit, but I could see, with the knowledge that they have, why. But when they did that, I'm like, well, now you guys are just kind of being fucks, aren't you? Like, it's kind of a dick move. But again, not mythic literalist either. So, and I'm also, and it's part of why I wanted to bring some of this up. Whenever it comes to any sort of Lokean god, I am always like, how much Christian influence is going on right now, especially in the context of making a god or the gods look bad or evil. Because I find it at any time, and again, maybe this, I might be looking at it too biasly myself, trying to put too much of a positive spin on things. But anytime I hear any sort of instance of this god was being an asshole, this god was killed, this god did something dumb, I'm always like, so Snorri, was there a reason you wrote it like that? You know what I mean? Like, was that the original version? You know what I mean? Because, like, if you look at the story of Ragnarok, which we're slowly transitioning to here, every god wins like some sort of Super Smash Bros. Epic duel draw where they both hit each other last hit at the same time. It's a draw. Every fucking one of them, just conveniently, every single god.
There's a few exceptions, but yeah.
Not any of the ones that in battle. All the ones in battle die. Everyone that shows up at the battle dies, right?
Well, yeah, but you have to remember that Fenrir kills Sol before he's eventually killed. In which case, Tyr and him kill each other.
No, well, I mean, it depends if you want what is the wolf that chases the sun and the moon, but because that's supposed to be Scotty and Hati, right? And Scotty and Hati catch them, finally catch them. That's supposed to be part of it. But then it's like, well, Thor kills Jormungandr, Jormungandr kills Thor, then we got fucking, what is it, fucking Fenrir kills Odin, but then Tyr kills Fenrir. Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of like, everybody kills everybody, and I'm like, It sounds like a last chapter of someone who doesn't know how to finish the story, but wants it to end with, and now all the gods are dead, worship Jesus. And if that doesn't work, here's a Baldur Jesus insert. like all the gods are dead. We'll just present this one who came back to life, but did die. And his dad's kind of like a big deal. Right? And like, he's a cool guy. It's like, yeah, okay. Baldur Jesus, whatever you say.
Yeah, I like
Can we
theory.
just... I so want to make an emoji now that is literally just Jesus that's bald and have it be Baldur Jesus. Make it like you. We'll just put you, make you look like Jesus. We'll call it Baldur Jesus.
hey, if you're going to be hitting at me, take that hat off and show me what you done to your head.
Yeah. So I got this all, I'm going to take a razor to it, but I'm all clean shaved now. Although I was talking to my wife. I really hate it. I do not have a resting smile, right? I do not have that. I have a resting dick face, right? I just look mad. I look grumpy. I look like I don't want to talk to you. But what's even worse, when I shave my head, I look a little, I look like I'm too big a fan of American History X, if you know what I'm saying. Like, as if I didn't get the point, but still love the movie, you know? Like, and I don't like that. It's like, no, I'm just going bald. Like, look, you can see I'm bald, even though I'm like, my hair's all gone. You can see it. Like, I'm just out of options, people. If I had my choice, I'd have a huge, luscious mane. It'd be the opposite of a skinhead. But, well,
Story of my life, Rose.
in a bit of irony, my grandpa Rodriguez passed down his hair to me, so now I look like a skinhead. Fucking grandpa. No, it is true, though. It is true. Like, my mom's side, you know, this is a little bit thinner, but it's not as bad. My grandpa Rodriguez, though, dude, it is... That dude, he had it gone when he was, like, 30. Which makes a lot of sense. Because I'm, like, 30.
Yep.
Love you, grandpa.
Happens to the best of us.
But
I mean, ultimately, my hair's so thin that if I even wanted to grow it out, like literally just all of this right here, like if I shaved just this part and I let the sides grow, I could look like a bearded Patrick Stewart.
dude, I can't do the Ring of Fire. I can't do the Ring of Fire. I wish I could. I can't do the Ring of Fire.
There's only a few people that can pull it off. I don't think I could pull that hair lift do off. I had a great uncle who did. He pulled it off really well, but yeah, I don't think I could pull the Picard, the Ring of Fire, whatever you want to call it. I don't think I could pull it off.
I know I can't. I just fucking know I can't. But anyways, enough about us going
At this
bald.
point, it's in this point. Now we should tangent back into the topic.
Back into the topic. So yeah, essentially, whenever there's anything that's paints it just a little oddly negative or a little too convenient, if I was a 11th century poet trying to convert people, I just raise an eyebrow. But that's neither here nor there, right?
Right. So I think with that, Fro disappeared off camera. There he is. So I think with that, Fro, we can get into the nitty gritty of the actual Twilight of the Gods. So starting with the first point of, is it real?
I don't think so. I think it is just a myth, right? Now, many heathens think that about a lot of our sagas. This one I find very, is the term allegory? I think allegory is when it's supposed to stand in for a religious thing. There might be allegory, right? A story that's supposed to have a bit of a message behind it. Anyways, that's what I think it is. I think this is just simply a story that's supposed to have a bit of a message behind it. Right.
Right.
I don't really find it. I just don't find it a thing. I can't add it. I don't see how it really works in my theology. I'm not sure what video it is, but again, Wolf the Red, Wolf the Red, Ocean Keltoy, and there was a third person because it was on one of their podcast episodes, The Omnipotent Beard. They talked a bit about, or was it his Vosh episode? It might have been his Vosh when he debated Vosh, Ocean and Vosh. But anyways, they talked a bit on it. There's actually not as much evidence for Ragnarok from my understanding. Don't fucking take it 100%, but if I remember correctly, it's only in Iceland that there is any depiction, not in any of the other Scandinavian and Nordic countries, or Germanic countries, or in any Germanic paganism at all. And again, it's just way too convenient for me. Like, your gods are dead. Here's a reset. We have a new sun, new moon, but they're not gods. They're just a sun and a moon, right? It's like, here's a whole new world. Here's a new everything. Your god's dead. Baldur Jesus.
I mean, I'm on the fence. Again, because there isn't a lot out there to really kind of solidify it as an event, and it only pops up, I think
it's just in the Eddas, man.
Yeah. And there's no other reference to it outside of that. Like, not even, like in the Edda, it alludes to it.
Yeah, and that's the kicker. Like, there are some things that are exclusively just in one text or another, right? But might be alluded to towards another.
Yeah, but there's
something that big too. I mean, involves all the fucking gods. It's supposed to be like the end of the world. Like, I don't see how it only got wrote down once. Look how many fucking Christians are out there getting ready to tell you the world's ending tomorrow. Like, you're tell me nobody? No, I guess that nobody wrote anything down though. So.
Well, yeah, and then, I mean, you have to look at the, if you want to get into the whole conversion process and, things that were outlawed, things that were probably destroyed or lost because it went against what they were trying to convert everybody to. And, if you want to get into that too, I mean, how much of that stuff, that was written down that we've lost to time because it simply got destroyed because it, spoke against Christianity or spoke against whatever law they were trying to put in place at the time.
Real quickly, Beard, I want to touch on, and this is a tangent. It's not really a tangent. It's just real something I want to touch on. It's just derailing. As much as it seems like the universe does not want us to record this episode, because I just had a loud ass fucking car go by me as well. Like, and I think it has still been a very good conversation. Like. Behind the scenes, we've had his kids show up, which I may or may not edit out. At this point, I'm thinking about just leaving it all in so everyone can see my struggles. We've had cars go by. We've had a train go by. Today's my first day back from vacation, and I fucking completely forgot about this. And my kid's like, "Oh, we miss you so much. Let's go out to dinner." So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go out to dinner, kids. We can go out to dinner. I haven't seen you in forever." And it's like fucking 10 minutes before recording, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be like 20 late. My bad, bud." Just like, just a whole bunch of things. And then my server was being slow. Like everything's just working against this recording, but I think it's still turning out to a great episode. I probably should shut the fuck up before it gets corrupted or like we lose one of the files. But
right. I mean, I'll throw an additional wrench in there, Fro. I just set up voice meter, so we were messing around with my voice settings.
Oh yeah, and we were setting up voice meter, and we're trying to get that all figured out.
I've been looking at my thing, and there's occasional things where, like, if I shift in my chair will pop.
Oh yeah, that happens.
My mic will pick that up.
Yeah, but you got to imagine that was always getting picked up. At least now it might silence one or two of them.
This is true because like that train going by, I'm going to take that and use that as my voice reduction, and it's probably going to clear out.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's not how voice reduction works. No. You want... No. So now that you got your voice meter set up, sorry, this is really detangenting. You know how each one of your voice, each time you talk, there's like a little tail?
Yeah.
You want that tail. Because that is the ambient sound of your room while your mic is still open. Right? Because now your mic's essentially open and closing like a gate. Once it's not making loud enough volume, it's going to shut off your audio. Nothing's going to pass through there. Right? So if you noise reduce that train, the only thing it's going to noise reduce is that train. Whereas if you do it on the tail, it'll take off some of the tails or some of the bits where you like speak and it doesn't fully like cut you off or start back up or anything like that. So that's what you're going to want to do. The tails are the little lows in between.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look for a good tail then to do that on.
And you only need, I think it's 1/10 of a second. So really it's any of them.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and then on top of it, I was off sick today, so I'm not even feeling 110% today. So
the world doesn't want this episode. I hope you all love it.
Right, but we're gonna give it to you guys anyway, barring any issues.
Barring all the fucking issues. What do you mean any? All of them.
Right.
Real quick. All right. I want to share this now that we're still off track. I want to share this with you heathens because you might appreciate it. I know many other people won't. I was down in Texas, right, for the Smite World Championships. If you play Smite, hit me up. So I was down in Texas for the Smite World Championships, and we went to the one park where they got like this in Dallas where they have a whole bunch of bronze like bulls or cows, longhorns. And we're walking on this path, and first off, your guys' squirrels down there are either malnourished or they just don't get fat in the winter because our squirrels get chonky. They're way bigger than the southern squirrels, at least in Dallas. And lastly, this motherfucking squirrel, as I'm walking by the trail, it stares me down, hops to the edge of the tail, gives me a feel that like tail flickers, like what the fuck you doing here? Runs like 15 feet down the thing, right? Real quickly, digs up a nut that's right on the side of the trail as I'm like walking towards it, like, no, you stay away from my nut, you thieving motherfucker, and then runs off on another different tree and just buries it and stares at me. And it's like, fuck you too, bud. How about that? Fuck you and your nuts. It was just very funny thing because it was the thing where it's like, I felt that squirrel like, no. Fuck you, dude. You're not stealing my nuts. Like, I got the look from a squirrel like I was sus as fuck. And I felt it.
What you should have done was gone over there and dug up his nut.
No, and I instead I buried the hole that he didn't cover back up. I covered his hole back up.
Oh, how dare you do the nice thing, Fro?
Yeah.
The squirrel was calling you out, man.
He really was, but he probably thinks I'm a fucking idiot checking the hole that he just buried. He's like, didn't you see me pull the nut out of that one, you stupid motherfucker? And then he climbed his tree and he forgot where he buried his nut, so. Last thing. Do you know that squirrels are, if I remember correctly, it's either the biggest or second biggest planters of oak trees because they're incredibly forgetful and they'll plant acorns fucking everywhere and not remember where they are, but then they start growing into trees. remember correctly, it's like either it's the first or second, like, reason so many grow, or like not pollinator, but like contributing factor. They're one of the biggest contributing factors to the growth of oaks. There we go. That's how I'll word it.
That makes sense.
Because I don't remember the technical wording, but yeah, it was all because they'll just bury the motherfuckers and forget. It's like, good dumb tree idiots.
Right? Suppose we don't have any trees growing in our backyard.
We were talking about something that was not about squirrels.
Not even in the slightest.
Unless we want to start talking about Ratatasker, then we can hop back over to squirrels.
Does Ratatasker even play a part in Ragnarok? Because now that I think about it, I don't think he's present in Ragnarok at all.
No, but he's also... First off, this is where things get really tricky. What is Ratatasker? Aesir? Vanir? Jotun? Creature? Like...
It's good. It's a good point. I never really thought about that.
What about Space Cow? What is Space Cow? I can't pronounce it. It's like I always want to say Andrabolda or Andrabolda, but that's the mother of like Loki's kids. But it's Space Cow, the one that like
the one that licks the ice.
Yeah, licks the ice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that? Is that Aesir? Vanir? Just a creature?
I mean, I would say...
Because I could see how we would look at, like, maybe Thor's goats. Like, yeah, they're just goats, right? But maybe, obviously, like, they're Thor's goats. They're able to be regenerated. I don't know if that has anything special to do with them. But where would they fall in a lot of spirituality and all that?
That's a good point.
Not saying that we definitely should be worshiping goats. I'm just like... I'm very curious what label people would attach to that. Let me know. Let me know down in the comments what you would call some of these mythical creatures, or if they would just be mythical creatures. Because I do feel like some of them don't really.
Tree.
Yeah, like some of them I don't think warrant really much of a description or anything, and like mythical creature would be fine, but Nidhogg. That's got some importance, right? Like that plays a part. We don't know much about the Falcon and the Eagle on top of Yggdrasil, so hard to say on them, but we know a bit at Ratatasker. Or Ratatosk. What the fuck is Ratatosk?
Right? Outside that, he's a squirrel who carries messages back and forth. Which, depending on, I guess, what, I don't want to say translation, but what, like, take on it you're taking, is that he carries the hate mail between the dragon and the birds. One of the things is maybe he just kind of forgets the message halfway up and translates it wrong. Going back and forth, which I think that would be an interesting concept. Like the whole reason that the dragon that's chewing on the roots of the tree is so pissed off is because Ratatasker can't deliver his message correctly.
And see,
which I think would be kind of funny.
This is where I'm also torn when the story is supposed to mean something or was a straight allegory, right? And again, I don't know if I'm using the right term for that. Because if the whole Nidhogg, Ratatasker, and I forget the name of the eagle and the falcon again, is just an allegory for the telephone game and how that works, and essentially it would work great as a story you tell your kids about, hey, be careful what you hear from others about others, you know what I mean? Or about others' opinions about, essentially back in the old day, like, look out for Timmy come and say that Johnny said this about Steve. You know what I mean? Like, unless Steve said it, you know what I mean?
Right.
It could be just an example of that, especially if you were to live in an age where you send a message off, it'll be a week before it'll get there. Unless it's written down, which writing wasn't super common, there's a fucking huge chance the message is not going to be the literal message you want to deliver. Anybody who has kids or siblings or anything in the fucking thing, or has tried to have your parents deliver a message for anyone who's ever had anyone deliver a message for them fucking flat ass period, you will understand. It's like, yo, I didn't fucking say that. Why did you change the message? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
And we live in a day and age where a text can fix all of this, right? And this shit still happens. So I can imagine in a time where you have to send a ship, or it's a week trip to the village that you know need to go talk to the Jarl because you're the messenger, or you sent a messenger or whatever. I could see how it would definitely fit under there. Morality wise, I don't know. Entertaining story, yeah.
Definitely.
So I have no problem when it comes to
yeah.
a story to be like, yeah, that might have just been one to entertain them. It may have been. Like, what the fuck's wrong with that?
So, before we get even more off track,
I know I'm horrible about it. Sorry.
we are. I mean,
We're doing good
fair,
up until I'm like, hey, this has been a great episode. You want to watch me fucking smash this into the ground? Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have done that in the Mario Vorse. So here we go.
So,
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
No, that was good. That was good. That definitely has to stay in the episode. I think I've filed my way through this wood piece. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm having such a pain in the butt. I've been trying to by hand file this hole through this piece of wood for 3 days.
You need a hand drill so bad.
I need a hand drill so bad, because what I'm going to be doing, and in fact, so we have it on the camera, because my bottles came in, I just jacked my slipper off of my box. That's fun. So I got my bottles to bottle mead in, and make sure that this is on the camera. So I'm going to be putting the Bind Rune logo on it, as well as on the piece of wood, and then we're going to tie the wood piece, which I have to adjust the size of the wood piece still, but we're going to dangle it around the bottle, is what we're doing.
So,
and then whenever I have like the ingredients label and all that stuff, it's just going to go on the other side. Whenever I get around to that point, that's still like, this is all like huge work in progress. It takes.
Oh yeah, you just want to have one
time.
made up. A mock-up, I believe is the term. So those who are listening, essentially, right now it's just a purely black bottle. Looks like black painted bottle. That he's going to put a bind rune on, which I believe it's the bind rune. Is it the bind rune that we are using for this Discord?
No, it is the bind rune that I have.
I don't remember. I forget. I always forget. I'm sorry. You made one for your area specifically, right?
Well, it was originally for my area specifically, but then I've just kind of used it for whatever at this point. So anyone who's seen my Twitch stream,
yours,
basically. So I've dubbed the binder. I don't know if I have a picture. I had a sticky note that had it on there. But if you go over to my Twitch page, which I believe there's a link on our YouTube. So if you're listening to this on any of our audio sources,
in the descriptions, everybody.
Please go over to the YouTube one if you're on one that doesn't have the links. And if you go to my Twitch and you go to my merchandise or my store page through Twitch, I have the Give Me Grith or Give Me Death patch and shirt. And the bind rune that's listed, that's in there, that's on the skull that's in that image. That's the bind rune I'm going to put on the wood piece and the bottle. And the running concept is that I'm basically going to assign kind of a color scheme. So like right now we have like a gold, like fine, nice print marker thing. So like for like just the straight mead, I'm going to use gold. I don't know. It's all stuff that I got to figure out.
Hear me out. Rainbow colors plus black and white. There's your 9.
Rainbow colors plus black and white.
The rainbow is literally attached in their mythology with the Bifrost, and especially how you want the different 9 ones, right? Because you're doing the 9 realms, which the Bifrost connects them. It's a fucking imagery sealed in, plus black and white, right? So you get that. They're just kind of go with everything.
That's true. I mean,
also, please, everyone, convince this man that, because I'll bring it up real quickly. Our my local or my suggestions I gave him for like some like idea inspiration for. So basically, with the whole concept of what he's doing, he wants to make a mead per realm, right? Or a mead inspired by the stories and the thoughts that the realm invokes, right? Or like any story that's actually from that realm that make mention of certain things in particular. But so, for instance, we'll start with what I find to be kind of an obvious one. You have Muspelheim, the land of fire, right? My suggestion to him was something like a cinnamon, but kind of not a fireball style, right? Not necessarily looking for the burn, but maybe a cinnamon, or maybe something just on the warmer tones, right? Just something that really kind of brings like heat, warmth, fire, like, right?
And that was
obviously
the idea my wife and I have been kicking around for that one too.
Right. But then I suggested right here, Elfheim, right? And now, again, this may be a little bit of a modern influence, right? Because Elfheim, land of the light elves, or the elves, Elfar. Modern kind of makes me think more foresty, so I'm like, hey, maybe something rather forest-like or rather tree-like a fruit-bearing tree. I'm thinking apple, cherry, or maybe something crazy like a pine, right? Like something that just screams like forest fae elves, right? Was my suggestion. But anyways, I bring all that up, right? Because I said for him, for the tried and true simple, right? Maybe just do a standard mead, have that be Asgard. Or if he wants to get crazy, have that be the one that has the mead herb, which I don't remember what the mead herb is exactly. I linked him the video. I think Arth Herger goes over the mead herb. Anyways.
I think so. Or it was the Welsh Viking one I think you sent me.
Or yeah, it may have been the Welsh Viking. Well, one goes over the different breweries, but one goes over specifically an herb that's referred to as the mead herb. But yeah, I suggested that either the standard one or a mead herb one. For his Asgard, but, and this is where I think it really, we kind of disagreed a bit. For Midgard, I think that should be the fucking beard special, right? Midgard, land of the fucking humans. We're picking you as our human representative. You make what you like. I am shaking the fuck out of my camera because I'm getting so animated. But yeah, you just pick, you know what I mean? Because, like, how would you do one for Earth?
That's where my thought of making it more earthy was the idea. But I mean, I do like your idea of making the Midgard brew
yours,
I like the idea.
Unique. You know, there's whatever beard likes.
Yeah.
But well, I agree with you with the earthy, right? Because like, well, it's Earth. But then when you have Svartalheim, that's supposed to be like the dark elves. Not necessarily the dwarves. It is the dark elf. Or did I say Svartalheim? Let me go. Whatever one is the place of the dwarves. Yeah, that's Svartalheim. Right. Yeah, dwarves. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I was getting confused for a second because if I remember correctly, dwarves is actually just a different translation of the dark elves. Because you had the light elves and the dark elves, but we just modernly have turned them into elves and dwarves.
Something
if
like
I remember
that,
correctly. Because that's why the weird name of Svartalheim, but it also has, or Svartalheim, which has a secondary name as well. Let's argue back and forth which one to use, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, that one, to me, you can't say the word dwarf without also literally invoking earthy things. So that's why I'm like, I agree with you, but I also think it works with this one too. So it's like I can't disagree with earthy tones for Midgard, but I just think it also works on this one as well. Which, if you were to pick this one, would still free you up to do the beard special. Anyways,
which is true.
We've turned into like a 10-minute mead rant out of nowhere. I apologize. Yeah. That's all on me. I mentioned driving this motherfucker right into the ground, and I'm doing a wonderful job at it.
You are.
Thanks,
so
bud.
But I have helped. So.
No, honestly, we knew it was gonna be like this, though, right? We came in this with light script and just kind of we're gonna free form, like
yeah.
We
'Cause,
had
I mean,
two main
the
topics
only-
to riff on.
And the only things that we haven't touched on at this point is to be honest, I mean, since you don't think Ragnarok is a thing, the concept of has it happened yet? Is it something that can be prevented, or is it a cycle? I mean, I'm sure you have opinions on, but how do you tangent into that when
Yeah, like we don't have
you
much.
don't?
Yeah,
And I'm on the fence. Like I'm on the fence, one, because like I said, I don't have enough evidence. Two, has it happened? Well, that directly relates to is it a cycle or not? Because I like the idea that Ragnarok is a thing and that it's a cycle and that the gods are always there and they're just, when Ragnarok happens, all of the old gods die and then someone kind of comes in and replaces them and then eventually
well,
becomes known as Odin or becomes known as Tyr and so on and so forth. And it's this cycle that just continuously repeats. It's a cool concept. Can I prove it? No. Can anyone prove it at this point? Probably not.
So I'm the one who did fill out our. I mean, we do have show notes. We don't ever go completely blind. They're just very loose topic points or talking points, like with no actual like make sure we do this. Just kind of like maybe this if you need to riff. But yeah, so the reason I put has it happened is because in the story, right? Traditionally, in the story, I say traditionally, just in the actual Eddas, Ragnarok has happened, right? And we are now in the world, the second or third world. It is the second one. I don't remember. But we're in the post-Aesir world, technically, right? Or at least the second one with them around. However you want to fucking look at that. I don't think the gods are dead. So I don't think it's happened. That's kind of part of why I would disagree with it. But if we were to look at it, and this is not in any of the edits, that it is a cycle, which I do know a few people who consider it a cycle, right? Or more of a representation of the world or universe coming to an end. And then, who knows, maybe the world and the universe itself goes through all the processes again, right? I think, what is it? Oh God, what's it called? The opposite of the Big Bang that they theorize may happen after everything expands out so far.
Like implodes or something like that.
Yeah, essentially like everything will retract back to a single point, and then they think that the universe may Big Bang again and go through the whole thing. So maybe it's an allegory for something like that. Maybe wasn't written about like that. I could see how someone could use some sort of modern interpretation, or be like, hey, this is just something they didn't know about back then, right? Like maybe they were getting UPGs of it in the past. Now with more modern technology and thought and understanding, we're like, well, this is what the UPG applied to. But on the same hand, I'm also not a big fan of just taking like, hey, it didn't fit back then, but we found something it might fit to, so we're attaching it to it. But I'm also not opposed to,
I mean,
maybe we were revealed some truths and like we can do that, but I find it very weird for a god to be like, here's a lesson that doesn't and won't apply to you. Don't worry, 100 years, you're someone who's not even related to you will understand what I mean. Like what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Iffy on that. So that's essentially why I did put those down there, because I knew you were a bit on the fence. I knew I didn't really believe in it, and it's that thing that's actually gonna happen. It's just more of an allegory for me. But those would be the other various possibilities, and we would like to touch on them. Again, we usually try to stay in our own wheelhouse and what we kind of think, but we do know those are. We don't want to exclude y'all, right? Like we're no authorities, and we do understand there are a lot of different varying opinions, and that would just kind of be it. The other opinions, right? You got yes, you got no, you got cycle, maybe. Yeah, that's it. Yes, no, maybe. I mean, it's a cycle. Yeah.
The general, I don't know.
I don't know. Yep. And I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like when one of our answers is I don't know or I'm still figuring it out, because I honestly feel like, and we brought this up I think last episode or the episode before, that there's just a lot of people speaking with authority or faking not knowing, trying to figure it out, when realistically they're just like, oh, I'm on my path as well, but they're just like trying to actually lure in people so they can tell you how they think. It's like, well,
Right.
no, like we really are trying to, excuse me, we really are trying to figure some shit out still, right? So I do
Right.
kind of like it when one of our answers like that, especially when we're able to have a bit of a combo about that.
And I think the brilliant part of, which again, hopes and dreams that maybe one day we'll have a bazillion million people listening to us and advising us, or not advising us, but looking at what we're saying. But I think
Conversing
the
with
brilliant
us.
part of, and conversing with us, I think the other brilliant part though is a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, assuming we're still going that long, which would be fantastic, we could come back and rehash any of these topics with any amount of new information that comes out, a new text that's found, a new runestone that's unburied, a new whatever that comes out, you know.
I mean,
as science progresses and
nothing new has to be discovered, written, or anything. We can just change our fucking minds to come back to something.
yeah, that too. I mean, oh, you know, I saw this person's video on this, and it's made me think of it in a new light. And yeah, so I mean, at any point in time, we can come back and have rehashes or pull topics out of different episodes that we've done, and specifically like bang out and narrow down that one topic or that one little thing that we did in one episode or this, that, and the other thing, because we have a change in mind. Or, you know, if we're not doing it back and forth together as a conversation, we can always do it as a, hey, you know, we had this episode 2 weeks ago. This came out. I've changed my mind. Here's my episode on how I think about it now. Like,
Yeah,
and I don't think. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was like, real quickly, this is just something I'm gonna say it. Changing your mind and your opinions upon new information or new perspective is one of the most adult things you can do. Period. I find people who are unwilling or wanting to change their minds are probably the most or least truthful to themselves and have limited their own wisdom and knowledge capabilities by a lot. I don't know any super intelligent person, super wise person who is dead set in just about anything. The world's changed, views change, you gotta change. You know? Just real quickly, that's all I want to touch on. There's too many people on the internet who are like 100% unwilling to change their perspective or listen to others, when it's like, you know, honestly, sometimes not even changing yours, but simply listening to the others can get you to just go, I disagree, but I see where you're coming from.
Right. And it's as simple as that. I mean, I think that's, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of a downfall. I think of a lot of some of these other, I just got my file stuck. I got it all the way through and now I can't get it out. So sorry, I'm having a little bit of a panic moment.
You're good.
So I can't do this with my gloves on. I'm gonna have to pull that out later. So I mean, and this isn't me trying to bash on any content creators out there whatsoever, but I think a lot of the other, you know, creators out there, a lot of the creators who are trying to do like facts, when someone presents them with new information, like they don't always like take it well. I've seen. I mean, there are content creators that do. Don't get me wrong, but I know there can be others that are just like, yeah, you know, they'll dismiss it or they'll not touch on it, and I don't like that.
I'm so torn on content creators, mainly, and this is them in general. Definitely not any particular one, right? Because you get in the particulars and this can be picked apart real quickly.
Oh yeah.
But generally, I'm a little lenient on that, because every motherfucker who comments on a lot of those people's videos are there to tell them how they are wrong and that they're going to tell them the actual way this shit's right. And that happens so much. So I could see where how it would seem a little hesitant on their end.
Right.
And also and this one I do know is definitely too much in the content creator's favor. I would like to think, and generally do think, that they've probably put a little more research into it than the average viewer. But I could easily be wrong. And yeah, I should really say I should hope. There is no proof. There is no real way to verify it unless they're like actually citing sources. And very few content creators do that. I mean, we don't even do that, but that's because we do not speak with authority on anything. And I think we've stated this pretty clearly on just about every episode.
And to rehash that concept, if you take us as we're authority figures on anything that we said, please don't cite us, because no, we are not authority figures in any way, shape, or form.
No, our whole point is two fucking idiots talking about how two fucking idiots are getting by.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah. This is how that is. We don't have the degrees in Old Norse. I don't have the degrees in this. I have my bookshelf's got like 6 books in it, right? Like, no, I got some PDS, if you know what I'm saying, but like, I don't have a bunch of stuff. I have a very limited like selection here. Like, we are not no crazy doctors, or what the fuck? Why am I drawing a blank on the PhDs? But anyway, yeah, we're not authority figures in the fields. That's as simple as that.
Yeah. I have no degree in this whatsoever, nor am I ordained in any official capacity.
Nope. Although I would kind of like to get that just for the legality purposes. Because I very much so am wanting to start up a local kindred, like, very badly. And I mean, we've talked about it every episode, and I suppose this is probably where we should bring it up as we bring it to an end here. We do have a Discord for any pagans in any of the Great Lakes states, from Wisconsin all the way over to New York. Fuck you, focus.
And specifically, and specifically pagan. So we are welcoming to anybody who falls under that umbrella.
Right, but we are focused on Wiccan and heathen focus, but that's just because, I mean, that's our wheelhouse, right? That's just kind of part of it. That's just, I'm not going to make a Kemetic focused Discord when I'm not Kemetic. I have no problem with it, right? We've gone over this again. Like, that's just kind of a focus, more our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You guys are more than welcome. We'd love to have you. I have my local Facebook group. Well, local. It's Heathens, Wiccans, and Pagans of Southwest Michigan. Hit me up. Love to do that. So get some actual IRL gatherings. That'd be dope. Also we are loosely going to try to plan those in the Discord, depending if it doesn't grow too big too fast or where the population is. We're trying to accommodate in there as well. And lastly, Beard has his Wisconsin Pagan Resources,
which is a Facebook group as well.
This is kind of the same concept.
Obviously.
Yeah. We got those two. Right, that's our socials.
And of course, you can find us both on TikTok. You can find us both on the YouTube if you're watching on the YouTube here, or our other audio things. I know you've started the side hustle of doing the library thing.
Yes, well, I'm just reading what I got for Christmas, or for Yule, essentially.
Well, that's fair. And then I have, of course, my Twitch. So all those things can be found in our link a doodle doo.
Link, comment. Did I say link? Like, comment. Like, comment, subscribe, do all this stuff.
Jet lag.
I really
it's gotta be jet lag.
It really is jet lag. I got minimal sleep. Actually, I didn't sleep too terribly bad, but
I
It
mean,
was
you
much
only-
of it was not much
you
of it
only-
was sober sleeping. I can assure you that. Like I know we talked about how much I don't drink. Well, this fucking doesn't apply to last week. Yo, Texas, you guys got Ojo Locos. Hooters ain't got nothing on that. That's all I'm gonna say. Let's get out of here. I watched the motherfucker get pepper sprayed. Let's get out of here.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. All right. So with that, I have been Beard. He has been Fro Double G, and we will see you all next time. Bye.
I love you, Ojo Locos. I have quit recording.